Sonic Colors, released for the Wii in 2010, is one of the most well-regarded Sonic games. It was credited for bringing back a lot of goodwill to the franchise after a string of poorly received entries. The game just kept it pretty simple and to the point and focused on Sonic alone without any other major gameplay mechanics or genres breaking up the pace. But one of the most unfortunate facts about Sonic Colors was that it was becoming lost to time. By that I mean it was only on the Wii. I still have my copy of it that I got day one almost 14 years ago, but without a re-release, fewer and fewer people had access to it. I mostly played it on my PC via the Wii emulator, Dolphin. But most people don't know how any of that works and may not even have the specs to run a game like this, so they depend on re-releases and remasters to give them access to classic games again. This brings us to 2021, the 30th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. With it, a new release was announced. Sonic Colors Ultimate, coming to all modern platforms, and my reaction was, holy shit! What did they do to this game? Sonic Colors Ultimate is one of the most diabolical remasters I have ever witnessed. It was pretty clear that the art direction, one of the best things about Colors, had been completely obliterated. Bright areas like Tropical Resort looked dark and muted, Sonic looked like he got a vat of wax poured on him, the bloom was ludicrously high across the board, it just looked awful. Fans then debated back and forth on if it actually was that bad or not. When the game came out, I made a video saying what side I was on. The past several sentences should have given that away. I thought it looked terrible, and then I said I was not going to buy it or review it. Especially because, when it came out, things got even worse. The ruined art direction was only a minor problem compared to all of the rest. There were a plethora of graphical glitches like pop-in and flickering, the game crashed chronically and corrupted your save data, the audio was poorly balanced, and the new elements like the Rival Rush or the Ghost Wisp felt cheaply tacked on. And it was discovered that you could activate seizure-inducing visual glitches before that got patched out. It was really awful from top to bottom. I genuinely consider it one of the worst and most embarrassing Sonic releases ever. Definitely one of the worst remasters I've seen. And for a game I really like. I think Sonic Colors is awesome. It's not the greatest game I've ever played, some levels aren't great, but for the most part it's a fun, approachable, replayable action platformer with minimal foundational issues which many other Sonic games suffer from. But of course, the fact that a lot of Sonic games struggle has led to one of the best things about Sonic. The fan development community is unlike any other series. Sonic fan devs work tirelessly to produce wholly original and fun work. And they also work tirelessly to improve the work left behind by Sega. I can't go one Sonic video without mentioning Sonic Project 06, a fan-made remake of Sonic 06, one of the worst games ever, and the result is one of my favorite games of all time. And now another fan dev is doing a remake of Sonic and the Secret Rings, another one of the all-time worst Sonic games. I can't wait to see it get completed. Modders have tried to do things to mitigate the issues of Sonic Colors Ultimate, but that never caught my eye much because Sonic Colors Ultimate was so fundamentally rotted, in my mind, that it was unsalvageable. I'd rather just play the game on Dolphin than play a mod of this unholy grail of gaming. But things changed when I saw on Twitter that Blue Wolf Blitz was working on an impressive mod. Sonic Colors Project Re-Rainbow. It's been in development for a while now, and I thought it was super promising. A total visual overhaul of Sonic Colors Ultimate that wanted to bring back as much of the original aesthetic as possible and make Colors look on par with Unleashed and Generations by using his model from those games. It was not only meant to be a restoration, but also an enhancement on it. It got its first public release a few days ago and I decided I'd give it a look. Only issue is that I had to buy the game first. As I said, I didn't review Colors Ultimate when it came out because I didn't want to. And I never bothered with it afterwards, so I had to grab it on Steam. But lucky for me, the game was on sale as a part of Sega's Steam sale, so I got it for 70% off, which is quite the steal. Re-Rainbow wasn't the only mod I had installed, though. I had a few others I thought would help improve the experience. I downloaded a HUD and UI mod that restored the original life icon and life system. Colors Ultimate had a new system called Tails Save, where dying would trigger a cutscene of Tails dropping you back onto the ground. It's a pretty unnecessary feature, so I wanted that removed. And I also saw there was a mod to play the original music and none of the remixes created for Ultimate, but then the game also patched that in, so I didn't even need to install that mod. So once everything was installed, I was ready to play Sonic Colors Ultimate for the first time. The mod does exactly as promised. It restores much of the visual appeal of Sonic Colors just with higher visual fidelity. It still has some of the improvements from Ultimate like light rays from the sun and Sweet Mountain, but all the extra stuff that made SCU look deep fried has been removed. And other weird random bugs like Sonic not dropping in the opening cutscene of Starlight Carnival Act 3 have been fixed, and there's small improvements like squash and stretch on Sonic's jump and a 3D animated mouth. It was fun to re-experience Sonic Colors in this way because the mod really makes it feel like you're playing Colors, but if it was for PS3 or 360 and not the Wii. Areas are colorful, detailed, and a joy to look at. It's not absolutely perfect. I still think Tropical Resort is a bit dark in the mod compared to the Wii original, and the light trails in Starlight Carnival don't look quite as pretty as the ones from the original game, but this gets the job done, and is super impressive for a mod. If this were the remaster we got, I would spot issues, but I would still have recommended it. Speaking of issues, problems are inherent to Sonic Colors Ultimate. The mod fixes some of them, like the flickering garbage in some of the stages, but not others. The fish in Aquarium Park flicker like crazy, the draw distance is still an issue that wasn't there in the original version, there will be odd graphical effects and bugs that weren't there before, load times are longer than the Wii version, even though I was playing this on a PC with an SSD. The Ghost Wisp was added to the remaster, and every section featuring it feels out of place and awkward to use. The Rival Rush mode is also pretty weak with lackluster presentation and lousy implementation. The audio balance is a consistent issue in SCU, where sounds like the Wisp announcer will be super quiet compared to the rest of the sound, and the list goes on. The mod improves what it can. The perfect homing attack has been fixed in the mod because they lowered the volume of the sound it makes, which is a godsend. Thanks to that, it's actually pretty fun to use. If you time your attacks right, you get boost energy, which is super useful because Colors doesn't give you as much boost as Unleashed or Generations, and this kind of evens the playing field. But yeah, a lot of issues here are still problems baked into Colors Ultimate, though it is worth saying that this build is a preview version, so it could all be fixed in another release. Time will have to tell on that. But either way, while this has issues still left over from SCU, I'm sure you can see, taking what I consider one of the most diabolical Sonic releases ever and turning it into this is a marvelous effort from a fan team. The moment I knew this was going to be an all-time great mod is when I saw what the team was doing with the cutscenes. Sonic Colors had pre-rendered scenes, but the Wii was a 480p console. When doing a remaster for consoles outputting a 1080p and above, just dropping those scenes in was not going to work. What the developers did was take the original video files and AI upscale them to make them match the display resolution. This was as lousy an approach as they could have taken. It's extremely obvious and produces visual artifacts all over the screen. It also doesn't work because the aesthetics of the cutscenes are based on the Wii original, so you have the game, which looks deep-fried, and the cutscenes, which are AI upscaled versions of the original graphics. Remasters with more budget put into them have done much more to solve the same problem. Take Uncharted Drake's Fortune, for example. It had pre-rendered cutscenes, but the devs of the remaster took all the original motion capture and animation data and replaced the old assets with the new PS4 ones to make sure everything was consistent. Maybe SCU could have been forgiven if the original video files were all they had to work with, but with some data mining done soon after release, it was shown that the animation data was still in the game. They just opted for the cheap and quick approach. But this mod team decided to take on the task of using the animation data, the new models for Sonic & Company, and the redone environments and remaster every single cutscene in the game, creating synergy between the gameplay and story. There isn't much to the story in this game, but it really is a level of effort you have to be in awe of for a free mod. The cutscenes are huge though. You can download the mod without the cutscenes and the file size is far less if you do, but I think it's worth downloading the cutscenes with it because this is really impressive stuff. I said before that if this was the Sonic Colors Ultimate we got at launch, I'd consider it a perfectly good way to play Sonic Colors. The cutscenes make it one of the best ways to experience the game, and what issues I have with the visuals and the existing bugs aren't enough to where I'd say you should play the original version over it. The higher frame rate and new homing attack system are legit improvements, now without the plethora of downsides. But what I said back in 2021 was that I'd rather just play Colors on Dolphin for 4K 60 FPS action. Now that we have the mod, I think it's an either-or kind of deal. If I wanted to replay Sonic Colors, I think I'd have to consider which version I'd like to play. If the mod continues to evolve and even manages to fix some of SCU's other problems, it'll be well on its way to being the best version of the game by far. If you haven't played SCU, I'd say this new mod makes it worth picking up and trying, because it's really good. But that's just about all I have to say on that. I was pretty impressed with this and look forward to seeing what comes of it in the future. As for what content is coming next, Mega Man X8 16-bit got a final release a few weeks back, and I feel like I jumped the gun a little bit too soon on covering it, so I'm going to put out an update on that next. Soon enough, we'll have Sonic X Shadow Generations, which I'll certainly be covering, and even more Sonic and Mega Man stuff's in the pipeline for everyone who cares about that. But in the meantime, I'll leave you all with the same closing words I always do. If you made it this far into the video, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.